I don't know if it's still there, a flower shop and a bank.
Yep.
There was a big white house attached to it.
Yep, I can picture it.
I lived in the basement.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
So we went across the street and took that.
Took those.
Yeah.
I'll be in that soon.
You will be.
Can't wait.
I know, it's exciting. I'm trying to see if I can find, I don't think I wasn't in this color.
It's right here.
There I am, yeah. Of course, I still get those squinty eyes when I laugh. There we go.
I never met a dental student that couldn't party.
That's it.
Some things never change.
So since I was born in 1956, as I was growing up, it was the 60s. When I was young. Back then, most women who worked, and my mother worked, she was a secretary. Most women who worked that I saw were nurses, teachers, secretaries. But that's really, in my mind, what working women did. I grew up in a small town in Newark, Ohio, so I thought that the normal balance was that men did certain jobs and women did certain jobs. And it never occurred to me that it could be different. When I was growing up, I thought I wanted to be a teacher because I always did well in school. I liked school. In fact, I remember generally I would know the answer to things. And there have been certain teachers that told me that even if you know the answer, we don't want you to raise your hand all the time. We want you to give other people a chance. When I had braces, I probably started at age 12, and my orthodontist talked to me about being a dentist. And what flew out of my mouth was, girls aren't dentists, because I had never seen one. My father started talking to me about it when I got a little older. He told me that they had books at the library that talked about different professions, and I had to find 10 professions that I thought maybe I would want to do. So I was walking away from the car, kind of pouting, and he called me back. He goes, "Oh, wait a minute, I forgot one thing." He said, "When you're making this list, there's something I want you to keep in the back of your mind. Do you want to have to rely on a man to live?" I thought, oh, hell no. I made the list, I looked, and I thought about my orthodontist, and that was my aha moment. I decided this is me. So my orthodontist was pretty much my mentor. Most of my mentors have been men because, as I said, I didn't know any female dentists. My father was a welder, my mom was a secretary, and I didn't know anything about dentistry. I think having a mentor is key. It made all the difference.
And we'll bring your stuff over.
Did you have the brochures and
I have the
everything?
box, yep.
Good.
Yep.
We'll
I'll
set
just bring
that
it from over there to over there. Thanks. Justin, hey. How are you?
Did you stitch my two presentations
I
together?
did. I did the ADA one first and then yours second. Growing up, I'm so fortunate. I have female role models in my life that have been such strong and independent women. My mother, all my aunts are college educated. They all have worked. My mom is the only one in healthcare, and my Aunt Maureen. But I had no doubts in my life that I was ever gonna not go to college or be able to pursue any dream that I had because I had strong women to look up to. I had braces twice growing up, so I was in and out of the dentist's office almost once a month. And I just got really comfortable there, and I loved the people there, I loved the environment. And so that led me to think maybe dentistry is a career that I would like to pursue. I was able to shadow at a dentist office for about a month, and I fell in love with the career and the idea of being able to be a mom and a dentist all combined in one. I never really thought about another career path. Dentistry was always something that intrigued me, and I knew it would challenge me. And so I always would tell people if I don't get into dental school, I don't really have a backup plan. So I think this was a dream I was going to continue to pursue, even if it didn't work out the first or second or third try.
I come from a family where no one had ever gone to college. So my parents said, you can go to Ohio State or you can get a job. So I was going to Ohio State. While I was there, my orthodontist was still my mentor. And he said, there is a program they have at Ohio State where you can get in dental school after 3 years of undergrad. Then you can get your bachelor's and your DDS at the same time. He said, why don't you talk to your guidance counselor and see if you would be a candidate for that? So I made an appointment with her, and she said, do you mean to tell me that you would take the spot of a deserving young man just to get in early? So, being Sharon Parsons, I was doing it. So I thought, well, what if I do get in? I didn't expect that I would, but I thought, what if I do get accepted? How am I going to pay for it? Because I knew my parents couldn't pay for dental school. So I made an appointment with our hometown bank that my parents had banked at for years and went to see the vice president of the bank. I laid out for him what my plans were, and as I'm talking, he leaned across the table and he patted my hand. And he said, that's really nice, honey, but I think you're a little girl with a big dream, and we won't be investing in you. I went to 7 other banks before someone would believe in me for a government-guaranteed student loan, and they all pretty much said it was because I was female. Back then, there was a big difference. Women couldn't get credit cards without a cosigner. So it was a different world. We were not on equal footing by any stretch of the imagination. So I applied to dental school in 1978. At that point in time, there was a shortage, they thought, of dentists, and they thought they needed to graduate as many as they could. They didn't speak about it, so I won't say official, but everybody kind of knew that they had a quota system. There would be 10% female, 10% black, 10% Jewish in almost every class. So I don't think it was by chance. People were concerned that women would not take dentistry seriously. And because there was a quota, people wanted to say, well, if you get in, it's only because you're female. Because they thought that if you're female, that automatically gave you that leg up. But in actuality, a lot more women than that 10% applied. The faculty had mixed feelings toward women. I don't think they knew what to do with us. Some of the faculty were not shy about letting us know that they didn't think that we should be there. And they were not going to make anything easy for us or equal for us. Other faculty members tiptoed around us and made things too easy. My favorite faculty members were the ones that treated us equally. And that's all I ever wanted, was to be treated like an equal. The males in my class, especially, were not accepting of the females. A lot of them thought that we shouldn't be there, that we shouldn't be allowed to be dentists, that we got in maybe because we used our feminine wiles, or, somebody thought we were cute. For the first couple months, I would go home in tears. And I've never let them know that they made me cry, but they would just ignore me like I didn't exist. And I thought, all right, I'm going to have to find a way to fit in. And, I grew up around guys. I wasn't always, just a girly girl. So I went into the lab and I told the dirtiest, raunchiest, most horrible joke you've ever heard. And it kind of caught them off guard, but they liked it. And that was the start of the ice melting. By the time I graduated, I was, I think, very accepted, and I was one of them, but I had to do some things to make sure that, I really didn't try to play up on my femininity in order to be one of the guys. I started wearing clothes that maybe didn't flatter me as much. I bought clothes maybe one size too big. I think all of us as females found some ways to cope, but that's what we dealt with on a daily basis. And that was not just me.
I think building my practice as an endodontist was probably the hardest thing for me. I was never good at sales, and pretty much going out and marketing yourself and putting yourself out into the community and meeting all the referring dentists is like cold calling. And so I had to go out and knock on doors and try to meet dentists every single day so that I could build my referral base. And I could tell that there were certain situations in where people just were not going to send me their patients, and they were not going to change their referral patterns. And so one of the things that I had to do was build a community of female dentists, because I felt like that was really my weakness. That was what wasn't getting me in the door. And I knew that there was something about this weakness. How can I look at it as my strength? Because this was our common connector. And so what I had to do was, again, think outside of the box, do something differently, and get a tribe together that I could really build a relationship with.
I started as an assistant, chairside assistant in college, and eventually worked my way up to the front office and became an administrator and ultimately managed a dental practice. And then I decided I wanted to stay in dentistry, but I was ready to expand and try something bigger and different. And so I took a job with a consulting company, and I fell in love with coaching. And so within a few years, I broke away and wrote my own program and started my own coaching company, and I've been doing that ever since. In terms of challenges, I think for a lot of women, and maybe a lot of people in general, but certainly women, I had the classic imposter syndrome. I was young, I was female, and I wasn't a dentist. And so to be advising dentists, and at the time, early in my career, mostly men, there was definitely a feeling of, what right do I have to be here advising this man on his dental practice when I'm not a clinician? I've never owned a practice. I've never, operated a business at this level. I think the challenge in the beginning really was that imposter syndrome where you think, what right do I really have to be here? And it was just really getting over that hump and realizing that if I stayed true to my gifts and stayed true to the things that I thought I could really contribute at a high level, then that made all the difference.
So I've been doing this probably about 25 years. And in my journey, I found myself often the only woman in the room with these industry leaders and the only Black woman. So I had to be assertive to get my ideas and my thoughts and my presence. You're going to notice me if I come in the room. So having to intentionally position myself and not be intimidated by a male-dominated profession at the time, and realizing that I was going to go to the next level and it was going to take me being confident and clear was challenging at times when, there weren't a lot of Black women or women in that position.
Having an organization that would uplift women especially would have been huge when I was in school. As women, we were struggling just to get by. If I had had an Ann Duffy in my life early on, it probably would have made a big difference.
My name is Ann Duffy. I graduated from dental hygiene in 1974. I retired from 46 years of clinical dental hygiene, and that was 2.5 years ago, so I've been in dentistry for over 48 years. When I started DO, what inspired me was a phone call I had with a dear friend. I had known her for 20 years. I called her on a Thursday to check in on her, and I said, "Hey, how you doing, Sue?" And she was crying hysterically. Her boss, who is now president of the company, told her, "Your smile is insincere and it looks like you're plotting something against the company." I was like, "Sue, that's insane. Darn it, I'm going to start something to highlight women in dentistry." I had already had a magazine. I was publishing Dental Entrepreneur for 15 years. Sat on the back porch with my husband, Tom. I had a martini, and I said, I think I'll call it Dental Entrepreneur Woman. I already have Dental Entrepreneur. How hard can this be? I'm going to start a magazine. I only wanted to highlight women in dentistry. That was my goal. I had a magazine. I'm going to put them in a magazine. I'm going to highlight them to show how fabulous they are, smart, beautiful. And it has turned into like, oh my gosh, we're inspiring them, we're empowering them. And I'm just blown away by, it's not me, it's each of them coming into this community and inspiring and empowering each other. And that to me is power. That is leadership that will carry forward to the younger women, to our daughters, to our nieces, and the men that we come across, because they need our help.
I'm so fortunate to have been exposed my first year of dental school to all of the amazing opportunities that ASDA provides dental students. Through them, I've been so fortunate to have been exposed to so many great female dental mentors that I look to as people that were in my shoes a couple of years ago and are now living the dream. I have met dentists that have been practicing for 10 years, for 20 years, for retired dentists that are the embodiment of what I want to be as a dentist one day. So I feel like I have never had to worry about changing who I am or worry about what other people think or how people perceive me. I feel so fortunate to be a female dental student in the 21st century because I'm not sure how my headstrong personality would have fit in with the societal norms of back in the day.
My first job out of dental school was in a small town in southern Ohio. I was the only female dentist in a 50-mile radius. So, I was an oddity. I did feel a responsibility to women, and I felt that I needed to bring some change. And I felt, I don't know, but I just always felt that I needed to do that. I felt like that was one of my callings. When I decided to get involved in organized dentistry in more of a leadership role, and it started at the local level, I had the position of secretary of the Ohio Dental Association. I had to make a decision whether or not I was going to run for president. I was reluctant to run for president of the Ohio Dental Association because I didn't think I had what it took. You can call it imposter syndrome, self-doubt. And I discussed it with my older son, Sean. And he said to me, "What makes you think this is about you? You being president isn't about you personally. This is what you can do for women in my generation that look up and they see on that dais a female who represents them and who represents everything they need to have happen in dentistry." And that's what I needed. That made my decision. And this was probably 2 or 3 weeks before he died. After my son died, obviously, it's the hardest thing you ever go through in your life. But I had practice. I was I had a leadership position at the Ohio Dental Association. And in that leadership position, every year, people in the executive committee have a retreat. And at this retreat, we had dinner, a nice dinner, and we were at an oblong table. And then I hear someone say, "Why in the world are we spending all this money? Just let the addicts kill themselves." And I just felt like I'd been shot through the heart. I quietly got up and I went to the ladies' room and I cried my eyes out. And while I was in there, I thought, I don't even know if I want to go back in. I think maybe I just want to quit. I don't know that I'm cut out for this. Why in the world am I here? But I decided to get up, to go back in, have a game face on, and to get through this meeting. But I realized that statement didn't come from hatred. It was the ignorance of addiction. But they're prescribing. People who are prescribing substances that can kill people don't understand addiction. And I knew in that moment that I had to educate them. I had to find a way. And I marched into the executive director's office at the ODA, and I said, we have to do something about it. I think women have to assume positions of leadership because you can't assume that people are going to look out for you or people are going to know what you need. And if we don't have a woman at the table telling people what the needs are, how is anyone ever going to know? You know, they're going to be there for their own purposes, not yours. So we need to be there, we need to be strong, and we need to represent each other. My son, Sean, would have been so happy to know that I was elected president of the Ohio Dental Association, just like my son, Michael, was. They both were always tremendously supportive of me and two of my biggest cheerleaders. Yeah, he would have been thrilled. Running for president of the ODA, I think I've always been tough, but it really made me a lot tougher. I was in uncharted waters, and I was going where only two women before me had gone. So when I came to the Ohio Dental Association as president, I put a lot of thought into things that we as an organization and as a profession needed. So one of the things I immediately implemented was an opioid coalition. And in that, I brought together medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, and addiction recovery to sit down and to talk, because the opioid crisis never would have happened if everyone would have been talking. I also developed a task force on diversity and inclusion. We did have some detractors, and we had to put forth how important this was. But, you know, people, they don't know what they don't know. And most of the people who were against it said, we've never had a problem. Well, if you're a white male, it's probably never been a problem. You've not been looked down on, you've not been discriminated against, you've not walked into a meeting and had no one speak to you, had no one include you. As president, one thing that really struck me was I went to a local component society near Cincinnati. And after we gave our little presentation, a woman came up to me and she said, "You have no idea how thrilled I am that you're president." She said, "Do you know that I almost dropped out of organized dentistry? That, you know, I would go to a meeting and no one would talk to me, that no one included me?" She said, "I feel like I have hope now. And I've decided to run for one of the positions in our local society because I see what you're doing." And that, to me, validated all the work that I had put into this. When my presidency ended, people were taking the time to write letters. And one of them came from someone who was really tough on me when I first got on the Ohio Dental Association executive board. This person told me that they weren't sure about me, but they realized in this time of crisis that I was the right person at the right time. And they said, "You did some things that I don't know if I ever would have had the nerve to do." They said, "You know, what makes a good leader is doing the unpopular thing because it's the right thing." So since my time as president, I've tried to use that experience to lift women, to try to encourage women, to try to encourage minorities. I've used my experience with educating dentists about the opioid crisis to try to save lives. And I've seen a huge uptick in the amount of women that I've seen get involved.
There are so many women out there that are paving the way, that are providing examples and showing strength and courage in a society that does not always acknowledge or welcome our confidence, our presence. But I think there's a shift now. Men understand, other women understand, companies understand that you need different perspectives. You need the Black perspective, you need the female perspective, you need the minority perspective, you need different lived experiences in order to prosper and grow. If your only perspective is all you got, then what do you have?
It's really been an honor to be among the leading women in dentistry who are really paving the way to make it easier for the next crew of graduates. It's been great to connect with these women who they're just like-minded beings, and collaborate with them and really embodying that love and care and desire to push each other forward. Sometimes it's hard to be that type of woman, but I'm so glad that I've met these women and I get to go on this journey with them.
For all of the women in our profession, I think it's important that they know they stand on some history and they stand on some shoulders of women who have forged through a jungle and a forest. And a lot of men and women have made a lot of hard choices so that they could walk into this in an easier, more accepting way.
Paving the way for women in dentistry, actually, to me, I'm very humbled by it. All I know is that I am using the strengths that God gave me to bring a lot of great women together, and then they do the work. I really feel like it's really my calling. So I'm writing it out, and I can see that we have all these young, beautiful women that are going to carry it on and make it a great place for the new women, the young women, and the women that are here already to have a fulfilled, loving, lasting career.
The women before me in dentistry moved mountains. They broke down walls. They paved a path for women in my generation to have a flawless and seamless transition into dental school and into the career. So I can only hope to one day show my appreciation and just thank them for all of the things that they went through and all of the things that they accomplished to put me in this position that I am in today.
The fact that there are so many women in dentistry right now is such an exciting thing for me. I mean, I fought so hard just to get there and just for the chance to be there, to be considered an equal. The fact that over 50% of the women graduating are dentists mean that in the future, I don't think that women will be a minority. In fact, I don't think that a woman who is a dentist will be considered a female dentist. I think she'll be considered a dentist. And that's really all I ever wanted to be.